Good evening and welcome to Powered by Authenticity. I'm so happy to have you here with us today. And today's guest, we've been talking for quite some time about getting Kelly as a guest on the podcast. I'm just so thrilled and excited to have this conversation. So I'd like to welcome Kelly Nagel. Kelly, how are you tonight?
I am doing so well, Emily. Thanks so much for having me. We've been talking about this for months. Actually, maybe I think it's a year now, I think. So I'm glad that we were finally able to make this happen.
Yeah, it's awesome. And thanks for being here. How'd you like to give a quick intro? Just tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, sure. So my name is Kelly Nagel, and I am a former president of GN Audio and been in the technology field for over 30 years. I'm taking a career pause right now, and I'm dedicating some time to the WIT Network, Women in Technology, an organization that I've been a part of for over 6 years as a community leader in the Buffalo chapter. And Christine Bongard, the CEO, asked me if I would like to dedicate some time to our global communities. And I said, yes, I would love to help out any way I can. So we're helping launch another, I think, 12 communities. So we're launching 5 communities in India. We're launching in Australia, New Zealand, Dubai, the Philippines, Singapore, Netherlands, Ireland, and I know I'm missing one. And we're starting one in Argentina, is another one in South America. So we're really expanding outside of the U.S. and Canada, which was our stronghold, and really want to touch as many women around the world that we can in all ages and stages of their career.
That's amazing. And, being a part of the WIT Network and Buffalo chapter is definitely a bright spot for me. And I've definitely gotten to meet some amazing people like yourself through that organization.
Yeah, it's something I'm very passionate about. I've been a part of it, and just mentoring has been always something near and dear to my heart. I had great mentors and sponsors throughout my career, and I think it's really important to pay it forward and to help others along their journey up the career ladder.
Yeah, absolutely. It's so needed right now, more than ever, actually.
Yes.
Well, welcome to Powered by Authenticity. We like to do a little bit of an icebreaker just to kind of get to know our guests a little bit. So we're both from the Buffalo area. I was curious about one of your local, favorite restaurants.
There's always one that, I have many favorites depending on the cuisine that you're looking for. There's so many great Italian restaurants, seafood restaurants, Polish restaurants, German. We have so many great local restaurants, which I think is a different thing for Buffalo. Is chain restaurants don't really do too well here. You've got such wonderful, authentic local restaurants that do such a great job that I always want to support those local entrepreneurs. And my favorite go-to for, it has to be more than 30 years, or maybe 25, 30 years, is the Left Bank in Buffalo, if you've ever been. So the Left Bank has this dish. It's the carrot pappardelle. It is lobster and crab in this wonderful pappardelle pasta in this sherry cream sauce. And I've been getting that dish for probably 25 years. And I joke about it because I've gone there for all different occasions, and the dish is always amazing. I always say I'm going to try something different, but I always get the same dish. But they have such wonderful food. The service is great. It's just a Buffalo staple for many years. And if you haven't been to the Left Bank, I would encourage you to go.
I have never been. Whereabouts is it located?
It is downtown, and it's on Rhode Island Street.
Okay.
So not far from oh my gosh, why can't I think of it? Where the Philharmonic. So where the Philharmonic area is,
okay.
It's probably like 2 blocks from there.
Oh, all right. I've got to put that on the list. I had no idea.
Yeah. Please do. They make a special ravioli every night. It's one giant ravioli, and they change the flavors. There's so many great things on the menu. I wouldn't even know where to start. My husband always says he's going to get something different, and both of us get the carrot pappardelle every time.
It's hard to break out of routine.
Yes, it is. Especially when something's so good that you crave that dish and want to go for that dish.
Oh yeah, I know that feeling well. How about producer Ken? How's it going tonight?
It's going good.
All right, local favorite.
Oh, I'm in the same boat. Lots of local favorites. But I would have to say, because I like the rotation of the beverages, I do like our local brewery, Eli Fish.
Ah, yeah, that's a good one. They have some great food too.
That they do.
Yeah, Kelly.
Do they brew their own beers?
Yeah,
They do, and they usually have about 20, I think it's 24 on tap at any time. So lots of options, and they usually are running really good specials during the week too. So something different.
There you go.
yeah. I thought about having a WIT Network event there. It's very open, and there's something for everybody. So I thought that might make a fun spot.
Yeah, and they sort of
That might be a good spot to try.
Sort of refinish that back area into something they can use more as a party area too.
Yeah, awesome. Well, I'm in the same boat. I'm not sure it's well known that in this area we have such great restaurants, but they're amazing. I'm tough. I am gonna say though, I think I'm going to pick Romans right now. I love Romans here in Batavia. Things
the
like
Buffalo Wick Pizza.
Yep, beef on wick pizza.
Or the beef on wick pizza. I would say Buffalo.
Yeah,
the beef on wick pizza.
Yeah. So I think it's a fun hangout spot. So it's just great food and everything else. So, well, thank you. I learned about a new restaurant tonight, so I'm gonna put that on the list to go try.
Awesome.
Well, one thing that has really hit home, Kelly, in 2024, when you look at the layoffs that have happened in technology, women have been just significantly impacted. The first quarter, 56% of the tech layoffs that was represented by female. So we're already in a spot where we're not having the majority of team members be females, and really we're challenged from an equity perspective, and then we get hit that hard from layoffs. So what is your advice? I think it's important to get the message out there that people aren't alone. It's happening to a lot.
Right.
Any advice for anyone who might be in this position?
Yeah, I think use your network, and the WIT Network is a great foundation for that, but just network with your colleagues that maybe you haven't connected with in a while. I was talking to someone at our Galentine's Day event. We do an annual Galentine's Day event with the WIT Network, and 2 people had just lost their jobs around that time. And the great news is when you come together and you talk to one another, people genuinely want to support and help their colleagues and friends. And already through some conversations that happened that night, I think one person had a lead on 2 different roles that she was made aware of by networking. And I said, it's so important to reach out to your network and your tribe and to let them know. It's always difficult when you lose a job. I always tell people it's like you're a walking Brene Brown book. There's blame, there's shame, there's ego. And a lot of people identify themselves with their jobs or their roles. And I always tell people job or, a role is something that is a part of your life. It isn't your life. It isn't who you are. And it's really important to separate the job from who you are and your role as a mother, a wife, a friend, a daughter, whatever, that is so important, and you can't lose sight of it. And I think things happen in time, and you're not alone. It's happening to so many women and men. The tech sector has just been through such a flux. There was such a period of great growth, and that growth, unfortunately, after the pandemic plateaued, and a lot of companies right-sized. They had to. They didn't have a choice based on the business and costs, and they expanded very quickly, depending, on the sector that they were in. Certainly, where I came from in the audio video sector, that just exploded with people working from home.
Yeah.
And as it became people going back to the office, and companies weren't refreshing their equipment, that caused a bit of a stagnation in the market. And it happened with the PC vendors. It happened with, a lot of people spent a lot of money on peripherals to send people home, PCs, laptops, headsets, video cameras, and they wanted them to be able to do their job from anywhere. And then with going back to the office, then they had to really beef up their security. Was a big piece. A lot of companies maybe didn't spend the money on security, or they didn't outfit their meeting rooms because people weren't working in the offices, or their offices weren't being touched with renovations for a few years. And you think about all of the back end that had to be put money into, and then the buildings. A lot of people were resizing their offices and downsizing, and they have to put a lot of money into renovating new office spaces, or they were perhaps getting rid of some office space because they didn't need it anymore. So I think it's been, we had this great period of growth, and the industry has right-sized itself. And I think, it's a great opportunity to sit back and say, what do I want to do? This is where I always challenge people when I'm mentoring them. I said, okay, you've done this because it's what you've always done, or what you've done for the last 10 years. But that doesn't mean that's what you have to do for the rest of your career or the rest of your working life. Take a step back and think about, what do I love? What am I passionate about? What would I like to try? And a lot of people are like, what if I fail? And I say, well, what if you don't try and then you really do fail? Like, what if you try and you fly? And there's so much, like, and guess what? You try it and you don't like it, you can do something else. You can always fall back to your safety net. But I've been quoting this a lot lately. There was a Charlie Day actor. He was doing a commencement speech, I think it was last year in 2023. And he was speaking to his alma mater about, he had been doing Always Sunny in Philadelphia, and it wasn't really taking off yet. And he had a regular role, but the contract was for a year, but it was another sitcom. And he actually declined the 1-year contract and said, no, I want to take a bet on myself. And I think that's something that's very telling. When you say, I'm going to invest in myself, I'm going to take a bet on me, and look at, how successful Always Sunny in Philadelphia. I think it's like 9 or 10 seasons or something. But I think this is a time for people to really, take a step back, reflect. I've been doing a lot of that during my career pause. I've been keeping a green notebook and a red notebook. I know it's silly, but the green notebook are things that I lean into, that I'm like, I'm really interested in that. I'd love to learn more. I'm curious. Maybe that's something I want to do after, my time off. And the red notebook is the things that make my shoulders go up to my ears. And I'm like, no, those are non-negotiables. I am not doing that. And when I have a conversation with someone and they start to talk about something and I feel myself like going, oh, my shoulders are squeezing my neck, that's something I've noticed now. That's a no-go for me. So I think you really need to take time and pay attention to what sparks your interest and your curiosity, and what are you leaning into versus what are you pulling back from.
Yeah. I think that taking the time thing is something that is undervalued, because when you are in that position. I know for me personally, when I got that call regarding my layoff, it became a very emotional time. It was, how am I going to feed my family? How am I going to do this? And I didn't breathe. And there was that's almost a negative for me, right? Because if I would have taken the time and just been able to take a breath and say, okay, this is truly what brings me joy, versus, to your point, what makes me cringe when I wake up in the morning that I have to go face, you can look at success in a different venue. So I think taking that pause is so undervalued, and, being able to really collect your thoughts. And again, there's that emotion that just kind of kicks in when you get that phone call.
Yes. I mean, certainly the emotion, like I said, the shame, blame, the ego, and you're like, what are people going to think? And I'm like, do I care what people think about that? Do I, and then having that tribe, I would say, I had people that were literally calling me every other day. You get that call and you're not expecting it, and it's like a kick to the gut. Yeah. And then as you work through it, and it's, I always tell people, it's like stages of grief. I mean, you're losing a part of you. You're losing, maybe working with a team that you thought of as family. You think about, well, what am I going to do without this? This was really, this is how many hours of my day, my week, my life. But then when you take a moment and you really reflect on, who am I? And I have a great executive coach, Cheryl Klein. She's amazing. And she said, you need to write your obituary. So I did that. I took a girls' trip. We spent 8 days in the Outer Banks in February. And I actually just took that 8 days. We didn't really go anywhere. We just sat in a beach house. The weather wasn't great, but we took walks on the beach. We had a lot of wine, cooked some great food, but we really had some amazing conversations with the three of us. And one of the things, I took time one afternoon and sat down in one of the rooms away from everybody, overlooking the water. And I took the time to write my obituary. And I'm like, what do I want people to say about me? It wasn't about my job. It wasn't about, the position that I had or, what I accomplished. It was really about what do I want people to remember me by? They want to remember that I took the time to listen to them or talk to them when they were having issues, whether it's personal, career, whatever it was, that I was a good friend. I was a caring mother, a loving wife. I was a good daughter. I was a wonderful friend. And that those are the things I want to be known for. And I'm like, it doesn't matter that I'm no longer the president of North America. I am still me. And I think that's what really got me through it. And then I thought about like my next steps and that, it's scary as heck, but it also gave me such energy. And I was starting to take intentional walks where a no phone, it's me and my lovely golden retriever reporter. We spent a lot of road time. I think it was probably walking like 5 to 6 miles a day. And I would sit there and just notice. I would notice the trees. I would notice the sky. I would notice, and then then when I was noticing these things, then things would come to me and I would be like, oh, I'm interested in that. I'm going to reach out. I know someone who is doing this. I'm interested. Fractional roles. I know it's one of the things we want to talk about, but that was something that came up through a conversation with someone. I'm like, I didn't even know there was such a thing as fractional roles. I'm like, how does this work? And, tell me more. And what type of roles can be fractional? And a really dear friend of mine, Susan O'Sullivan, she retired at the end of, around the same time that I lost my job. And she started her own consulting company. And she and I have been talking, is there something we could potentially do together? Or, how could I fuel my, my curiosity? Executive coaching has been something I'm always passionate about. So I'm looking at executive coaching certifications as a next step, as part of my next step. That might not be all. I might choose to do 3 jobs because that's what you can do. And it's kind of exciting times that you don't have to just do one thing. And I keep telling myself, this is what I'm going to do for the next period of time. I'm not going to put it in a timeline. Our parents got jobs. You worked for the same company for 30, 35 years until you retired, and that's what you did. And I remember when I left Ingram Micro after 19 years, my mother said, oh my gosh, what did you just do? And I'm like, what do you mean? She's like, well, you just blew almost 20 years. You were going to work there. I'm like, I never said I was going to work there till I retired. I was going to work here until the next opportunity came along, or it didn't fit for me in my future or my career path or my career drive. And I think so many people think about things in like 5 to 10 years or, 3 to 5 years. And I tell people, think about it for what's good for me at this time. For, it might change. What's important and good for you for right now or the next 1 to 2 years might be different from what's going to be good for you in 2 years. So another wonderful boss of mine, Peter Gambino, he always, when he left Ingram after, I think, 20 years, he shared something with me. And he said, he took a job after, and he said, it was great. After the first year, I said, I loved it. I'm going to sign up for a second year. He said, you know what, maybe I want to do something differently. I maybe don't want to be an individual contributor. I want to coach a team again. So he said, I, went out and thought and said, this was great. It was, thank you for these 2 years, and I'm going to go do something else. And that really gave me, I think, the confidence to go out and look at things differently. So when I left Ingram, I did something for 2 years. It was great the first year. The second year, first half was a little rocky. The second half, it was clear they had different directions. They didn't like channel. They wanted to go direct. And I'm like, that's not who my core values or beliefs. So I think we're going to have to part ways. And then I went to, found the job at Jabra, and it was exactly the right thing for me. And the culture really married up with my core values and belief. I was given an opportunity, and I was able to soar and take on new responsibilities. And it really fueled me. They listened. I was able to challenge and help transform the company and the way we did business. And that was exciting to me. And then I was given new challenges, and I was given support and coaching, and given the opportunity to work with an executive coach and go through different leadership trainings. And that was what fueled me. I'm a constant learner, a lifelong learner. So I like to be challenged with new opportunities. So now I said, okay, I have to think about my next steps and where I can go and what's going to challenge me for the next period of time.
Yep. Yeah. I love what you said there. It could be, there doesn't need to be a set period of time. I know my parents are the same, right? They work for the same company for, that's just what happened. And the thought of, branching out on your own and, was scary. But I think to your point, there doesn't need to be a timeline. You don't need to stay there. And You know, what might be good today in 6 months may also still no longer fit. If there's a leadership change or something like that, you've got to keep yourself open to, you know, making sure your position and where you are in life continues to align to your internal values, and, you know, kind of be true to yourself first.
Yeah, a wise woman, Corinne Sharp, who's also co-founder of the WIT Network, she says a great thing: go where you're celebrated, not tolerated. And if you think about that, just, you know, take a moment, go where you're celebrated, not tolerated. How many women, how many people feel celebrated where they're working, and how many feel tolerated? And I tell people you have 3 decisions. You can stay and just accept the status quo. You can stay and challenge and try to make a change, or you can leave. There's really no other option.
Yep.
And you think about that, and people are like, you know, I had a friend during a difficult time when I was in another company, and she actually said to me, we are having the same conversation on repeat. She's like, you need to decide. She's like, you're going to leave, but you need to have the courage to leave. And I'm like, you're right. I need to take action and ownership. I can't have the same, like, complain or say, I can't do this anymore. I have to take action in my own hands. And it's taking your power back. I think that's the other thing, is people get stuck and you don't realize I have power. And what helps give you power? Having conversations, seeing what else could be out there, understanding your worth. That's a lot of things I see from other women, especially, well, I don't think I can make as much as I'm making here. How do you know? You might be able to make more. You might be worth 20% more.
Yep.
You know, that's another piece we can probably talk for hours on, is that women don't advocate for themselves, whether it's through promotions or pay increases. I mean, we all know, unfortunately, that women on the scale are, you know, if you look across the many different categories and positions, that women are paid less than men. And unfortunately, like, women of color are paid even less than white women. Yep. So we have a problem. And one of the things I love to help women coach them on is asking for that raise and asking for that promotion. And I said, you have to get very specific when you're having those conversations. You need to have that conversation of, you know, with your boss. You have to make an intentional conversation. Say, I want to have this conversation or a one-on-one about my career development and my advancement. And I also want to talk to you about my pay. And that's a very uncomfortable position for women. Yeah. We don't ask, we never counter, we never ask for raises. I had men who worked for me that every single year, probably every 6 months, asked me for a raise. And you know how many times the women did? It was very few.
Yep.
They were happy with the merit raise that they were given. They were happy with the promotions when they received them. But I had the men that were always asking me, when am I going to get promoted? When am I going to get more money? And how do I make more money? How do I get more responsibility? And that's the things we have to do. We can't just sit back and just say, thank you. We say, I appreciate this. However, you know, I appreciate this. And I want to talk to you about my next steps. Here is, you know, my career goals and aspirations. And with it, here are my salary, you know, my salary aspirations. Yep. Can we have a conversation about this? And if your boss affirms that, yes, you are right for a promotion, you deserve a promotion, then you have that conversation of, okay, great. A lot of women stop there. Then I say, well, ask what the timeline is. Right. Because you think about that promotion, you're thinking maybe 3 to 6 months. They might be thinking 12 to 18 months. Now you're not aligned. Right. And that causes a lot of issues that I see and so having that conversation, say, well, here's my time frame. Does this align with your time frame? And then keeping them accountable. And, you know, you don't just have a conversation and be done with it. You have to have follow-up conversations and then see where they are. And, you know, is this possible? And I would say, you know, you think about, imagine if, or, you know, think about these conversations and these opening points and how you can get what you want in a win-win situation.
Yep. Yeah, and I think the other step that I've also had to do was to track it myself, right? Like, you put down the tangible items that are going to get you the responsibilities that are going to get you the promotion and the associated salary increase. And I would literally track every single thing that I had accomplished to roll up to that, so that there was no challenge. You know, it was me
100%.
Yeah, me proving to not only myself, but to the, my manager at the time of, okay, you said and holding them accountable. These are the things that you said I had to do. Here's how I've accomplished them. And here's the salary expectations that came with that level of responsibility. Time to take action. And I think, also one other thing that you mentioned there is knowing your worth. And I've heard from 3 different people this year alone questioning, do you know your own worth, Emily? Because of the way that I ask for something, project something. And, I think if you're walking into the room asking for a promotion and asking for a salary increase, you have to truly value yourself to that level that you should be valued. And I don't think we take enough time to take a step back and realize what that truly is and how much we can bring forward.
It's almost like that. I always tell, that's one thing women aren't great at. We don't have, not a brag book, but, have your accomplishments, write it down, celebrate it, and say, talk to your boss about it. Hey, I'm not sure that I wanted to just talk through some of the accomplishments that I've had in the last 90 days and just to make sure, because, you might not be aware. And great. I used to go I had a great boss, Bill Brandell, and I used to go in my one-on-ones with him, and I'd just come with a list of things and tell him all the great things I was doing and all the, and the things I was working towards. And he's like, he called me Nagel. Nagel, I never have to get an agenda with you because you've already got it done. And then you're telling me everything I need to know. You're telling me a story. You're telling me how this story plays out and where you're headed. He's like, I never have to wonder. And he's like, and then you followed up with an email and I have it all in writing so I can go fight for your next promotion or help you advance in your career the way you want to. So it's really important, I think, that we have these conversations and then they also follow up with something written so that you both understand each other. Hey, here's what I heard. Is this, does this align? And then you get confirmation and then you keep that in your, in your file, and then you have it to follow up with. I think so many times I see people have conversations and then they have nothing written to back it up. And then you can say, then they can say, we didn't have that conversation. Well, actually, here's that email that we talked about and you affirmed this. Oh, okay. I think depending on how many direct reports your boss has or your boss's boss, they're not going to be aware of everything. And maybe they weren't listening, doing some active listening that day. So it's really important that you follow it up with something, whether there's another conversation, another meeting, or I'd like to continue this conversation so you can move it forward to what you're aspiring to be and to do.
Yeah. And how many times are you sitting across from somebody who is actively multitasking? So emailing at the same time they're trying to have the conversation. They're not fully engrossed in that in that conversation like you are. So, well, it's so interesting to me. So we talked a little bit about that fractional type of role as being something that's even out there. When it comes to pivoting, documenting kind of what makes you happy, but I think too that we don't give enough credit to if it's an idea and something you think could be a career, there's probably somebody out there doing it or it's needed in the marketplace. So what are your thoughts about taking stock and, if it's not something that's a readily posted position, but you think that there's value in it, how would you pivot that? How would you go about in your network even starting to have conversations about an alternative route for women for a career?
So I challenge myself every week to reach out to somebody who I either haven't spoken to in a long time or someone new. A lot of people I hear, how do I break the ice and have a conversation with someone or have a virtual coffee? People are busy. I said, you know what? They're not that busy. And people want to talk to new people and have new conversations. So I'll find someone on LinkedIn. I'm like, they're doing something interesting. It may not be something that I think is 100% fit for me, but maybe there's something about what they're doing that I'm curious about. And I'd like to learn more and see how they got into this because it's maybe not a cookie cutter role. And that's how I talked to someone who was doing a fractional chief revenue officer role. And then I was talking to someone who was doing multiple roles. And I think of having these conversations, opening yourself up, and then, coming up with a plan. If you really believe in this, why not try it? And as Marv Levy says, if not now, than when, right?
Yep.
This now is the time. We're not getting any younger. At least I'm not getting any younger, but maybe others are. But I said, everyone hasn't had an idea. I mean, look at Bill Gates, look at Steve Jobs, look at as crazy as he might be. No, I wouldn't even say that one. But there's
I know what you're
people.
thinking.
Yes, the person who's moving his business from California to Texas right now. But there's some really brilliant people, and everyone starts somewhere with an idea.
Yeah.
And it may sound crazy, but again, if you're passionate about it, you believe in it, you want to try it. What's the worst thing that can happen? You can fail. What's the best thing you can have it happen? You can soar, and you can just move mountains and do things you never even thought possible. So I think when you believe in something so passionately, it's really worth giving it a go, as the Brits say. Why not?
Yeah. And the other thing, so I'm, not 30 any longer either. It's hard to believe, but I guess it's true. And I think if you don't be afraid just because you're at, 50 or 60 to even think about pivoting, because, there are you've got all of that experience and all of that, responsibility that you've already captured over the course of the first part of your career, that it makes sense to be able at that point in time take a chance. 10 to 1, you've known enough about finances and running an organization and resources and like the basics that you need from a business perspective, but you shouldn't shy away from taking a challenge just because of your age.
Yeah, I agree. Just went through, we had a great WIT event in June with Susan O'Sullivan and Anne Marie Santa Maria. And it was a nice fireside chat. Susan just pivoting, leaving Ingram after 35 years and starting her own consulting business. And then Anne Marie had been in technology for, I don't know how many years, been a business owner of an IT reseller. And she became a coach, a certified coach. And she sold her business. She got out of tech. Well, she's still in tech, but she really believed in this and was on a journey. And I love her story. And she said, I got into tech by accident. And she tells how it happened. But then she stayed there because it's like, she's like, well, I was doing well and I was making great money, but it wasn't, I lost my passion. Yeah. And she wanted to sell the business. And then she wrote a book, she's doing coaching, and she's living her best life, and she's living a very intentional life. And so I see so many around me, men and women, that are getting this new passion and vigor and energy by doing something that they maybe it was an idea in a green book. Maybe it was something that they leaned into and didn't cringe at. So, why not? And what's the worst thing? I always say, what's the worst thing you can do? Fail. And what's the best thing that can happen? You can soar. So why not try it? I would say, like, so many great things happen from failure. You learn. I mean, I've certainly failed many times, but that's how you learn, and that's how you move forward. So why not?
Yep, I agree. There's actually my coach that I've found and he and I have been working together since February. His comment is "fell forward," because for every
I love that one.
yeah, and so it's just such a time where you can learn so much. You take one failure and you apply it and move forward. And, those are the moments where you often learn the most, or when something happens that doesn't go quite as planned.
I also say fail fast. Like if
I like
you see
it.
it failing, fail fast, and then pivot. Everyone knows the Friends episode with the mattress up the stairs. Pivot. Ross was saying pivot. Yep. I would say just keep saying pivot. Just pivot. You don't stay stagnant. You move forward. You pivot. You make adjustments, and that's what life is all about.
Yep, I agree. Quick question. So there's a lot of work that the WIT Network does. Are there any other organizations that you could think of that might be a really good support for, women, or actually anybody who is kind of going through a career transition? Any other networking groups that you can think of?
I think, there's many, right? I'm
Yeah.
mostly invested with the WIT
Yep.
Network. I mean, Tech Buffalo is a great
Yeah,
resource.
it
They
is.
have the Tech Hub here, and they have a lot of great events. I mean, a lot of organizations like the Channel Company has a Women of the Channel event that they do every year, one East, one West.
Yep.
And then they have, continue the dialogues, but that's all virtual. There's the Women of the Cloud. There's probably any Women Who Code, Girls Who Code.
Yep.
There's so many different organizations. I think what I like to say is that the WIT Network is everyone's welcome. You don't
Yeah.
have to be a coder. You don't even have to be in IT. You might just like IT. You like your phone, you like computers, you're interested in learning more. I mean, we just had a great training about women who want to get into sales. You might be in different positions, or you might want, learn about what is tech sales all about. I got into it from hotel restaurant management. I was not a STEM girl. I hated math. I didn't really like science either. So I happened to end up that I thought that tech was sexy, and I loved learning about new things, and I loved playing around with the new technology. And that's kind of how it's very fast paced. I found I had a passion for it. I love sales. I was, a support role, an inside salesperson. I was a field rep, kind of executive. I worked my way up to management director, and then running a whole North American organization of, nearly 200 people. So I think it's really just finding your passion and don't putting a limit on yourself. And then saying what organizations are out there, whether it's Toastmasters, do you want to learn, public speaking? I've seen so many great public speakers, and I'm like, how do you do it? And they're like, I'm still nervous. I'm still, not great at it. It's really putting yourself out there and finding groups that are of interest to you, and really and asking, hey, I'd like to learn more. Can I join your next event? I'd love to join or learn from you. There's so much education and resources that are out there that just, ask, hey, how do I become a part of this?
Yeah. And I think you brought something up earlier, which I think is another opportunity, is finding that person who is doing a role that you're interested in, and seeing, what reaching out, asking the question, what organizations do you belong to that might allow me the opportunity to come and learn additionally about this type of role. And, people are so welcoming and wanting to help that even just a reach out to figure out what other organizations is a very valuable use of time.
There's so many. I mean, there's Women in Revenue. There's, you name it. Like, I'm sure for your role, there's different groups that I wouldn't know about. And being in the sales role, and marketeers, there's so many specialty niche things. And I think it's finding finding a group that you can connect with. It's also, you could have your own group, right? I have a personal board of directors, and I have a group that I meet with on a monthly basis. They're 4 amazing women that I really lean into, and they all come from different backgrounds. One's finance, one's sales, one's like digital transformation, and but I learned something from them, and they're on to their next chapter. One is doing board work, one is doing consulting, one is a fractional role, and now has an executive coaching certification. So I think having a tribe or a personal board of directors who keep you accountable, as you're not, going through and wavering, you're floating by. You're actually intentional about where you're spending your time and who you're talking to.
Yeah, I love that. I do want to just share one story with you, because I haven't had a chance. So the WIT networking event that we held here in Batavia, somebody reached out afterwards and said, when I walked in, it just felt easy. It just felt natural. And when you're new to a group like that, sometimes it can feel like you're an outsider, but they didn't feel that way at all. So just, I think the WIT network and the work that the group is doing, and how welcoming and just, wanting to feel each other succeed is just, it's hats off to that network. So just another quick shout out to our Buffalo chapter.
Well, that's good. We started, it's all about the members, and I think we're 320 now, or 340 members. It's incredible. And we want to expand out, obviously you're in Batavia, and how do we go out? Could we get people from Rochester to come to, from Niagara Falls, and and we try to rotate where we go and meet up. But I think everyone learns from one another. In the last event that we were in, I saw so many people that were like struggling, tears in their eyes, or saying, I didn't know how much I needed this until I came. And I think there's a lot of people that are carrying a lot of burden and stress and feeling maybe underappreciated, or, feeling that, especially during these times, like you talked about with the layoffs and 56% in the first quarter were women, they feel even more exposed, or, worried about their jobs. And so having that group and saying, hey, a group that celebrates you. I was talking to one woman, I'm like, you are amazing. I said, don't even doubt yourself for 30 seconds. I said, you've got this. And then she ended up getting promoted like a week later after she was feeling, so I was like, I said, yes, I said, let's celebrate this. This is amazing. You deserve this. You are so respected. And I think it's natural for people to doubt themselves, and especially women. But you take a step back, and when you've done something well, and when you've been successful, and just tap into that and remind yourself. I read something recently. A dear friend said you would never talk to your best friend the way you talk to yourself. And the stories that we tell ourselves in our head, or the way we talk to ourselves sometimes, I'm like, that's not the way we should be talking to ourselves. We should be like, yes, you nailed that. Yes, go. Like, way to go. Accomplishment. Let's celebrate. Yes. Not, I think about the Breakfast Club when, it's like, you're no good, you're a bum, you talk to yourself like in the most negative way. And I said, we have to talk to ourselves in a positive way and really think about the way we're representing ourselves, and that sometimes on repeat in our heads. So get that track changed, change out that cassette tape I'm going to date myself, but change out, I don't even know what the CD or whatever, 8-track, change that out for something that is going to be a good story.
Oh my gosh, that's hysterical. I was thinking 8-track too. I was like, 8-track cassette? What do we?
Yeah,
oh
I know.
Gosh,
there's no more. They're gone. Like, everything's gone.
I know. What's funny though is my daughter just got a cassette player. Like, she wanted this cassette player.
Really?
Yeah. So
that's amazing.
She has a great brother and producer, Ken, who very quickly found some tapes for her.
That's awesome. I remember my Sony Walkman. It was waterproof.
Yes.
It was a cassette tape.
That was life-changing.
Some of us still have a CD player, tape deck, and an 8-track player in our garage.
Oh, that's awesome. I still have my stereo set up. My husband's like, you still have this giant thing? I said, oh, and there's an 8-track over there, which I think I have the Bee Gees Saturday Night Fever on 8-track.
Yes.
Definitely vinyl. I still have vinyl and my record player. I have a lot of vinyl.
May or may not have been cranking ABBA on 8-track.
Oh, I love ABBA.
Oh, yes.
Dancing Queen, that's the best one.
Yep. Oh my gosh. Well, so what is on the horizon? So you've got your red and your green notebooks, and you're tracking through this time of reflection. So what else is on the horizon, Kelly?
Well, I've made a commitment to my family and to myself that I was going to take a year. I've not done that. I've not taken a year for me. So this is my Eat, Pray, Love year, whatever you're going to call it. I'm going to take 4 days. I have a list of things that I want to do in this year. Obviously, giving back to the WIT Network and mentoring is something I'm still very passionate about. I do on a regular basis. I am going to take until the end of this year and really give myself a break. Yeah. And I deserve that. I've been working really hard for, 30 some years, and I've never taken a break. So I am rediscovering who I am. I'm getting healthy. I'm walking a ton. I'm exercising. I'm eating better. Not so always great, but eating better. But I just feel good. I'm sleeping more. I'm just, we're blessed with a lake house in the Finger Lakes, and I've become a birder. I'm watching osprey and eagles and herons and loons. And I hear it now. I know I can recognize the calls of the osprey and what they're going to do. And I'm like, oh, there's one. I'm like, there's one. Oh, that one's fishing. We had these great terns that came in. They were migrating on their way north. And we got to watch them like one whole weekend because they had just released hatchlings in the lake. And they were having a field day. They were just eating. They were like, it was like an all-you-can-eat buffet. Like, I am eating more fish than I can ever. I mean, we have ducklings of all different sizes and ages right now. Like we have one mother duck who's got 18 ducks. So I'm very passionate about being on my porch at the lake and watching these birds and birds of prey. But I never had time to do, like, there's things that I'm like, I'm really enjoying this. And I'm using my Merlin app to identify sounds. And I know it might sound lame, but I think it's pretty cool. And we had baby owlets in the Montezuma Wildlife Refuge in the spring, and it was incredible. They had the baby owlets in the tree, and you could see them on the drive. It's great. If you've never been to the Montezuma Wildlife Refuge, it's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's cool.
So I'm taking this year to really enjoy and be with family, friends, and loved ones, and to really be present. And that's something I wasn't always present in my busy corporate life, because I was traveling a lot and I was multitasking. I'm trying to disconnect from devices. I thought I might do a silent retreat, but I don't think I'm going to get there. That's something interesting. Or just, can I do a 1 week unplug of electronics? I would, I'm considering that, but I have an 84-year-old mother, and I'm a only child, and she's a widow, so I don't know that I can disconnect fully. Yep. But there's things that, think about things you've always wanted to do, and that's, I have a list. It's like my bucket list of my year, and what do I want to accomplish? I've accomplished quite a few, but I still have a few things I want to do, and I'm really still identifying what do I want to do next.
Yeah.
And if I didn't have this time, I would have probably just taken a role that was very similar to one that I had, without challenging myself to see, what do I really want to try, and what do I want to maybe fail forward? What do I want to maybe be wildly successful? Imagine if. That's where I am.
I want to just say that I'm so happy for you to do that. I don't think I gave myself 24 hours, and I actually look back on that and I regret it. So I hope that other women and just people in general take what you're doing and make that happen for themselves if they're in the same situation. It's the other side that next year is going to be phenomenal, because you've been able to take this time and I'm with you. The travel, the everything. I was very disconnected for a very long period of time. So, I think it's just wonderful that you're taking this time.
And I realize it's a gift not everyone has. And believe me, when I'm like, I need to go do this and that. Yeah. And like, when I took a minute just to breathe and to, decouple myself, I think I feel like I've divorced, I had a divorce and I lost some family members in the process. But it is, I think people always say, I can't leave my job because I would be letting my team down. And I said, you know what, there's people I still talk to. You're not, you might lose some people, but you know what, you might gain new people over here that you never would have imagined would be part of your tribe, or you would get to know or work with. And that's what is super exciting. So I'm leaning into the what's next, and I'm just looking for the signs and seeing what will fit within my next chapter. It might be a short chapter. It might be, 10 pages, or it could be 50. I don't know, but we don't know until I find it. So I'm on this journey, and I'm excited and open for what's coming next.
I'd say that's pretty exciting. I mean, it's not prescribed, and what a great feeling. So, well, thank you for being here. I could talk all day. I could just keep going. I've really enjoyed speaking with you tonight. So I really appreciate your time and really you hopping on the podcast with us.
Well, it was my pleasure. So thank you, Emily. Thank you, producer Ken. It's been a pleasure. And I will just put this out there. We would love, if you are looking for an organization to join, the WIT Network has a free community membership, so you can join for free and attend some of the local events. Like I said, we have 52 chapters around the world. So there's most likely a chapter near you. And to learn more, go to www.thewitnetwork.com.
Awesome. And we'll pop the link into the show notes as well.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Producer Ken. Thanks for being here tonight.
You got it.
And thanks, as always. Go to GoArt here in Batavia, New York, for the use of their podcast room. We're able to keep the podcast going through wonderful support, such as GoArt. So we appreciate it. And Kelly, thank you again. It was just such a pleasure to speak with you. And I look forward to seeing you soon at one of our events.
Sounds great. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank
have
you.
Have a great summer and have a great vacation.
All right. Thank you. Will do.
Take care.
All right. Bye.
Bye.